Hello again, I am Fluff, back in War Thunder, in full realism, still trying to lose the training wheels, still having a mixture of successes and failures, leaning more towards failure. But there you go. Now here I'm flying a BF-109E, which is the first of the BF-109 series that you get at Tier 6. It's got decent handling, and it's cheap to repair, which makes it a perfect candidate for those of us who are just getting used to how things handle in full realism mode and really can't afford to be wasting very expensive planes. As regards the scenario, well, it's Operation Britain, that's the name of the mission, and in this the Germans have pushed up and taken port of Dover, and as the German team your objective is to escort the German Navy up the coast to attack the port of Deal. Obviously the mission of the British is to stop that happening, to take out the German Navy and reclaim those captured locations. Now the lobby for this mission was underpopulated a little bit because there are still relatively few people queuing up for the full realism stuff, but there were enough to make it a fairly good fight, and there was also initially, as there tends to be, a lot of flying around at altitude, squinting at the horizon trying to work out where the enemy are, so I will skip ahead to some of the sections with some more interesting stuff going on. Now the first bit of combat here was several minutes into the game. I'd been flying for quite a while and got incredibly excited because I spotted one of the tiny little dots that signifies an enemy plane moving at pretty low altitude. I zoomed in and I was absolutely certain I had a good shot at getting this guy down. I got lined up really carefully and wasn't taking too much notice of my speed, but I figured I didn't really need to. Did a real quick burst, and as he went past I noticed, yep, the guy was a biplane and probably never even saw me coming. Not much of an achievement. However, first kill ever of merit in this kind of game mode, so I decided to celebrate anyway. After quite a few false alarms and a certain amount of aerial wrangling, I eventually got a request for assistance from a teammate, and this is where I actually managed to catch up. You really need to be able to recognise silhouettes. In this case I correctly identified the Spitfire and started chasing him. Something you really need to learn to put into practice very quickly, and something I've had to relearn, is the virtual shooting in small bursts. Because in the simulator game modes, of course, you have limited ammunition. Once it's gone, you've got to land if you want more. I committed hard. I used up a lot of ammo on trying to down this guy, but I did get him off my mate's tail. The only problem is, as I realised he was pulling me into a turning fight, which I just couldn't win. My pilot is not trained enough, and in any case the plane isn't really good enough to keep up with the Spitfire if it wants to start a turning fight. As a result, I basically chickened out and ran away. Well, it so turns out that my decision to bail on that particular fight was probably a good one, because as I decided to come back to land and rearm, you'll notice, even as I mess up the first approach, that I actually turned out to have only about 2 minutes fuel, and if I'd have stayed in the fight I would not have had enough fuel to make a second approach. I might not have had enough fuel to even get back to the airfield in the first place. One thing the game does seem to do, or at least that I find, is cultivate a sense of extreme paranoia. So the entire way I was coming in, I was expecting a salvo of Hispano rounds to tear up my plane the entire way in, until I'd managed to get down on the ground. You can actually see where I'm so stressed that I'm holding my head back too much and have to consciously correct it so that I can see where I'm going and stop my plane doing flips on the runway. Fortunately, all the landing practice paid off. I managed to get my plane to a stop on the runway and breathed a big sigh of relief. Just as I was rearmed and preparing to take off again, I got the engine started, the flaps set. The enemy team managed to lose their last man. One of them had crashed evidently at random, and the other one got taken out by AA. Turns out I did quite well, and I'd also like to point out that if you're looking for big rewards for your achievements, then full real is definitely the way to go. Downing one opponent will pay you back quite high dividends, even if you're not flying anything particularly impressive. That's all from me for now though, so take care and happy hunting.